America wants a peaceful outcome that gets UNSCOM back on the job, but we are prepared to act if that doesn't happen. For months, we have said that every option was on the table. Unfortunately, one by one, the diplomatic options have been rebuffed. Iraq has a simple choice: reverse course or face the consequences.
So what about U.S. policy? And is Saddam backing down, or is this just another ploy to keep off an attack? Joining us today in Washington is the chairman of the Committee on the Middle East, Mark Bruzonsky. Mr. Bruzonsky, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You have written an article in which you call the U.S. strategy up to now unjust, hypocritical, and duplicitous. What about the U.S. strategy toward Saddam Hussein and toward Iraq bothers you so much?
Well, that would take, we'd need an hour to discuss that, but normally the American people don't see people who talk about the rampant militarism that's loose in this country. Normally you don't hear from Ramsey Clark, who's a former Attorney General of this country, who has not only called it the things I called it in my article, he has called it war crimes. You don't hear from the Catholic bishops who have terribly protested the sanctions and written to the president and urged him and pleaded with him not to do any bombing and to end the sanctions. The whole policy is so militaristic and so blatantly hypocritical that one hardly knows where to begin. We'd have to go back at least to the origins of the Gulf War, and then, of course, to why Kuwait was split off from Iraq in the first place by British imperialism. But at the moment, we're dealing with a devastated country. Iraq is a devastated country. The statistics are mind-boggling. 1.5 million people killed this decade by our sanctions. In this country, that would be 18.5 million people dead in the last 9 years. 7,000 children dying of starvation, malnutrition every month. In this country, that would be 85,000 people. As far as weapons of mass destruction, the weapons we're talking about are puny in comparison to Israel's huge arsenal of weapons of mass destruction. In fact, Israel is 8 times more powerful than all the Arab armies combined.
Mr. Bruzonsky, how much blame does Saddam Hussein need to bear for the suffering of his people? If he were to simply let the UN weapons inspectors come in, do their job, as he agreed to do at the end of the Persian Gulf War.
You seem to have missed the fact that for the last 7.5 years, that's exactly what he's done. And all that Iraq is asking now...
They have been allowed to go about their work unfettered and without any...
Absolutely not. There's no nation in the world that has allowed that. When the Israelis bombed Qana, the UN base in southern Lebanon, and the UN Security Council sanctioned them and said, we want to send inspectors to investigate, the Israelis said, no thank you, we're not even going to allow your inspectors to enter our country.
Mark.
The Israeli nuclear plant at Dimona has never been inspected. The weapons of mass destruction are throughout the region. The American government, let's put it plain and simple, they're very good at what they do in terms of their public relations. They have been lying and deceiving the American people for so long.
Mark Bruzonsky, I apologize. I have to end this conversation there, and I have to tell our audience that there is news out of Washington, thank you very much, sir, that the Paula Jones case against the president has been settled for $850,000, according to the Paula Jones legal team. We'll have more after this. Don't go away.